allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public comment is next. Statement by members of the public should be concise and will be limited to 3 minutes. If you could time it, Amy. They should not reflect adversely on the background, character, or motives of any individual. The board reserves the right to delay discussion of any item presented till later in the meeting or in subsequent meetings. Those wishing to provide public testimony virtually, please raise your hand virtually and you will be recognized. First person to speak will be Ronald Gray.
Let's have a few questions. Hopefully you can answer these questions in 3 minutes. Okay, one of them is this education excellence. And I'm just curious if why it's so good is why is the teachers leaving this place? You know, it doesn't make sense to me. If that's that great, I think the money could spend, you know, that's $96,000. And online education, I was wondering what courses they're taking and who's looking into it and how much it costs. That's one question I've got. And you know, you hired somebody for improving the school images. I don't know exactly what the program was, but I'd like to know what it is and how much it costs. And then on the school bond issue, you know, I went over this here and you guys, you know, is supposedly going through existing facility plan review and formalizing core team and all necessary contacts. I mean, I can read this down, but I don't want to waste my 3 minutes. You know what I'm talking about. You've got one of these. And I think in trying to get these people in, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you went over the school bond 2 or 3 times already and nobody wanted to vote it in. I think it'd have better off chance of letting the property developers pay for this here. They're the one that's making all the money off of it. Not the people who wants to vote the bond in. And anyone on here can answer them questions right now. My 3 minutes is not up, so I'll let you guys do it. You got 3 minutes.
Well, I don't have the answers to those questions tonight.
Well, I've asked most of these here before, and they're supposed to been email me with some of the answers, and I would like it. I never got an email to start off with, but I'd like it answered in this forum here, so it's recorded, so I can go back over it again at home.
Yes.
It's not the practice of the board to engage in a dialogue with the public during public to be heard, Mr. Gray, but
And why now?
it's not a practice of the board to engage in a conversation with the public during public to be heard or respond to questions. One of the practices that we've established, though, is the chair and vice chair, myself, and the board secretary meet after each meeting to identify patrons who might have had some comment to follow back up with them. So after this evening's meeting, I'm presuming that Chair Eskridge, Vice Chair McNeil, Ms. Wesley, and myself will meet and we'll follow back up with you by email.
Well, you know, I've met with you before, and I haven't got, you know, what I consider a decent answer.
Okay.
So I would like it to be in public, so that the answer is in public, so it can be on Zoom, so everybody can listen to it. I'm sure everybody in the school district, I would assume most of them would like to hear the answer.
There while we're talking after the meeting and she can keep notes the minutes.
Well, I would like to keep notes on Zoom. Why don't you put it on Zoom and I'll be happy to meet you afterwards. I think the public ought to know
We will have an update on the bond.
Yes.
Okay, what about
Okay.
the rest of this? You know.
Well,
you
I don't
wanna-
have the answer for you right now, so you're gonna have to meet with us after this
Oh,
meeting.
okay, I'll do that
Okay.
there, but I just want this on Zoom.
Yeah,
And I don't think, I came here for going on 17 years and I've got not much response for what I had questions for. And I think it's time, my son's out of school, so
Yeah.
you guys can't harm him anymore, in my opinion. And so I might have some grandkids and great grandkids coming to this school. So I'm very, very, very interested in what I'm asking you guys. And for a long time, I haven't got answers to most of my questions. And I love this Zoom. I mean, that way you can roll it back and find out exactly what somebody says, including what I say. I don't mind people listening.
So that it gives us more time to actually read over the
Well, all you
question.
gotta do is just roll it back.
To, I'm a very busy person outside of this, but if we have the questions submitted to us in writing, then it would give us time to read them and answer them properly with
Yeah.
them.
Well,
To give you an answer that you're looking for at
That's
this
correct.
moment, I personally don't have it. It's not enough time for me to go back and look something up to get an answer that's going to be satisfactory. So if I have it in writing, it gives us more time to review it.
well, I'll
Okay.
do it in writing, but I want to answer
And
over.
I'm sure
over
we can
Zoom.
answer it during the Zoom. once we
Okay,
have it
that
in
sounds
writing,
great.
Okay,
Okay,
we'll
Ron,
do our,
thank you.
And I'm a busy person too, so.
All right.
I got it.
It's not like that my life's worthless.
I never implied that and I
Okay.
wouldn't do that.
Well, I'm just telling you, it's not.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Ron.
very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, Jimmy Lanahan.
So I'd like to start out by saying thank you and recognizing yourself, Madam Chair, and Director Lawfridge for your service in the military.
Yeah.
Veterans Day is tomorrow,
Oh, yes, that's right.
along with thanks to any employees, citizens. And say it's an important day.
Yeah.
Say thank you. Thank you for that. For the good of the district, we have a Narcan plan that Tony's going to be showing you guys. This is great.
Yes.
This is great. This is very uplifting to see tonight. I would also like to recognize once again, Missy Grindle. She is an amazing, amazing asset to this district.
Yeah.
When something comes up that I need assistance, I can easily email Missy and I get answers or I get direction on where to find answers. And I just think that's priceless.
She is right on the game.
Yes.
Yeah, she is.
So at the last meeting, I spoke about special education and
Yes.
outcomes. I'm going to put together a little tidbits and such, and I will send it out to you folks, all of you. And I would like to encourage you to maybe have an agenda item coming up in the future where we can look at the state of special education in the district. We range from 300 to 400 students a year that are in that plan. And from what I see on the report cards, we're not getting what we should desire. I also want to tell the board, you guys have the power to make the decisions there. The state says there's a bare minimum. It doesn't say that you can't go above that bare minimum. It says maintenance of effort, but you can do a lot more than maintenance of effort. I would like to encourage you all to really think about what we've done, what we could do, and where we could go. That's all I have to say.
Sure,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jimmy. Okay, Lindsay Frankens. How do you pronounce your last name? Frankens. Okay, is that right? Thank
I
you.
only have two of these and they're both different, but
All righty, thank you.
have them for afterwards.
All right. Telltale heart.
Then I took the poor animal by the neck, and with one quick movement, I cut out one of its fear-filled eyes. One day in cold blood, I tied a strong rope around the cat's neck, and taking it down to the cellar under the house, I hung it from one of the wood beams above my head. I hung it there until it was dead. I thought of the cat as I watched it burn, the cat whose dead body I had left hanging in the cellar. I took a knife and struck wildly at the cat. Quickly, my wife put out her hand and stopped my arm. This only increased my anger, and without thinking, I turned to put the knife's point deep into her heart. She fell to the floor and died without sound. In short time, they saw before them the body of my wife, black with dried blood and smelling of decay. I rushed into the dining room crying, "Die, die." The old man gave a loud cry of fear as I fell upon him and held the bed covers tightly over his head. Still, his heart was beating, but I smiled as I felt that success was near. For many minutes, that heart continued to beat, but at last the beating stopped. The old man was dead. I took away the bed covers and held my ear over his heart. There was no sound. Yes, he was dead, dead as stone. I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume you guys didn't have time to look over all of the selected reading materials for the new adopted curriculum for the middle school. So I wanted to share with you all tonight a glimpse into these articles that our English teachers have chosen and stand by. I provided a copy of 2 of the articles that are in question and would love for you to look them over at your convenience after the meeting, especially because I'm learning that the school has also received at least one complaint about this in years past. Now, I understand that Edgar Allan Poe, the author of these stories, is a famous writer. I know that his writings are considered classic and have been in the classroom for generations, and yes, across the nation as well. But as a concerned mother, I had to ask some questions. In doing so, I learned that the curriculum does not specify which articles must be used in the lesson plans. I learned that our Molalla School District teachers actually get to choose those. I spoke with our principal and he agreed that in the sea of options of reading material out there, there was no reason why we needed to select stories that contain detailed accounts of mutilating animals and murder. But after having a talk with the English department, I learned that our principal didn't feel comfortable making that call, and he directed me to come to you guys, present you guys with the information, and said that if you guys said that this was inappropriate and that maybe we should choose something different, he would do so. I'm not asking the school to read the Library of Poe. I'm just asking for different material, even if it's from the same author. And I know it's possible because it was offered to my student and other parents who had students in the classroom who were unhappy with it as well. And I guess I just wonder if there's another more wholesome option that allows teachers to stick to the curriculum and students to not have their brain filled with demonic garbage. I'd like to think that Molalla is a district that would choose that. So when I asked the teacher why they had chosen these articles, I was told that they weren't focusing on the content, but rather the writing style. So my point is kind of, if it's not the content that matters, why would we use this kind of content? Let's see, what else? I just wanted to say, like, it's not so much my daughter that I'm worried about. My husband and I have been coaches in the community for a long time, and our daughter comes from a safe, loving home. We know she has a good head on her shoulders. For me, I'm just really concerned about those kiddos who don't have a safe home to go home to. There's so many kids depressed coming out of COVID, and if they don't have somebody who's there looking over them and making sure that they're safe and healthy, then now they're identifying with these characters who are self-identifying as depressed, and that this is what they do with their depression. We're basically giving them the tools, setting them up for failure. And let's see. I don't know. I think too, it's just, gun violence and school shootings are on the rise. And then we're now, this is what we're presenting. So I'm just asking you guys to maybe look it over. And if you feel like it should be different material selected, then maybe you guys could instruct them to do so. I had somebody say that, well, I don't know. My question was, would we allow a movie with this content to be showed in the classroom? And I don't think we would. And in my opinion, reading it is no different. As they read those words, the movie is playing in their head. And we send home permission slips all the time for silly movies, but not for stuff like this. So thank you for your time. Sorry, I went over.
Thank you. We appreciate it. It's
My
middle
child
school.
is 8, but apparently it's recently been rolled back to also go to 7th grade. So I know that our 8th grade, both English classes had it, but.
Thank you. right. Does anyone want to consider any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to action items. Approval of the October 13th meeting minutes. Okay. Been moved to approve and seconded. Any further discussions? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Raise your right arm. Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, how about the approval of the October 27 minutes?
I'll move to.
Okay.
Yes, second that.
Second, okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those who wish to approve this, raise your right arm. And it's unanimous.
I,
Thank you. Okay. Okay, personnel report. I need a movement.
I'll move to approve the personnel report.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, raise your right arm. Okay, it's unanimous. Now, we want to discuss the postponed ELL curriculum, and that would be Kathleen French. You want to come up?
Sure.
All right.
So it's just asking for approval, but I'm late asking you for approval. I should have asked you last spring.
Okay.
Because we actually should have adopted it or gone through the process last year, but because we already had two kind of in the docket, we had two adoptions. We did our world language and we did our ELA.
Yeah.
So now we're doing two this year, and that's the EL, which I'm asking to postpone, but we're really doing that this year, along with our math adoption. So
Okay, so we need a motion.
just to
approve
approve
the
something that I
postponement?
should have asked you to approve last.
Okay, so I need a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Craig.
if you can hear me, I'm not clear on what it is that Kathleen is asking for. Is she asking us to approve the delay? Or
Yeah.
are you asking us
Approve the postponement.
or are you asking us to allow you to, carry out a sort of a curriculum, whatever, research?
Yeah, no, I'm just
Adoption.
asking you to approve a postponement. So,
Okay.
yes,
I move that we postpone adoption of the English language learner curriculum until next spring
Okay, it's been moved.
of 2023.
Okay, and Terry has seconded it. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Okay, all those in favor of postponing the English language learner curriculum till spring, raise your right arm. And it's unanimous. It's been
Okay.
approved.
and just to be clear, I will come to you with a recommendation of new, of EL materials this spring that we'll implement next year. So,
Okay,
okay,
all right,
excellent.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. OSBA elections. Anybody want to,
Madam Chair,
yes, yes.
Since nobody spoke up in that short pause that you had, I'll be bold enough to say that I believe, as I have in all the years past, that the policies, the legislative priorities, if you will, of the Oregon School Boards Association are too vague, and that I believe that we as a board ought not take any action on approving or
You wish to table? this?
disapproving.
So are you
um,
asking to table this?
Well, I don't want to table it. I just want to, my recommendation would just be to take no action.
Okay. Is that going to be seconded?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, all those who approve this motion, raise your right arm. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, Craig. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All righty.
Glad I was around for this one.
All right. Okay, information discussion, update on the bond development facility improvement plan. This is one of the questions that you had, Ron, so I'm gonna have Tony Mann take it away.
Very
Alright.
much. Chair Eskridge and directors. I'm going to just show a couple things here that you'll recognize visually. I'm not going to speak to, but just to anchor us back in conversations we've had the last couple of months. I told the board at, I believe it was your July meeting, after you acted to direct that I move forward to bring a plan to action that would eventually result in a bond proposal coming to the board. I shared that work plan with you. I was promised at that time that I'd give you a monthly update. And so sometimes that will be able to take place in your regular business meeting. I believe that there will be times this year where it'll warrant, as we've discussed at board leadership, dedication of an entire work session to the topic. Because it's going to get more robust as we move in the process. Really important to have the board informed. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about both the board as an organization, but also the various players that are involved in this work plan. And just give you an update on work that's been happening before today that I think you'll start seeing in more of a public space as we move forward. So that said, I'm going to share my screen here. This is the work plan itself that you looked at back in June. Again, the details are not important here tonight. Just to reorient you, this spelled out what was going to be happening by way of the process and the deliverable task and how communications were going to be happening each month along the way. Again, this is a draft, a working document that might need to change over time as we learn more, we gather more information, there are adjustments. Why stick with it? You need to have a plan, because not having a plan is planning to fail, but also you need to be flexible and nimble, because sticking to a plan that isn't getting you where you need to go. So I always include that caveat here with something that's a 2-year plan. This may very well adjust, but I feel like we're on track. And that's my purpose in sharing tonight here, is to update you on a little bit on the groups here. So you'll recall that at the bottom of this work plan, there was a focus on various groups, the school board at the top, providing governance, eventually going to make a decision whether or not you wish to put a bond before the voters. That's the privilege of the board. And central to any proposal is the voice of the community. And that Blue Ribbon Citizens Advisory, we posted, you'll recall, an invitation for community members to apply. We've begun to get just great applications, people with credentials and also deep relationships in the community, right, that are trusted. I believe it's going to be a great advisory. Underneath that, kind of supporting that advisory, is the voice of the whole community. And I'm bringing that to your attention here tonight as well, because there is a group that's really energized, really excited. I think may include some planning that has also included some board members possibly, that has this nonprofit group that is not directly organized by the school district. This is organized by passionate citizens in the community that want to support the board. And this kickoff party is being sponsored by, again, as I said, active citizens, members of your budget committee. I believe members of the board have been in the planning as well. It's on December 6th at 6 p.m. Again, it's not a district sponsored event, but I wanted you to be aware that I've been invited to speak with the community members who are there. Looks like a meal is going to be served, and share with them the work plan for the year, so that everybody can see what's coming and measure their expectations around what communication they're getting and how their voice is going to be heard, not by me as a superintendent, although the community's voice is critically important to me. Really central in this is that advisory group, that citizens advisory group. They're going to gather a whole bunch of data over the coming 9 months, and community voice is at the top of that priority list around data. So this event on the 6th of December, I think we've got a facilities use form for the group to use the gymnasium at the middle school. And so I'll be there. And I think Mr. Dalton's been invited as well to talk a little bit about activity going on at the middle school and the status of the good work that's there. So I mentioned data, right? This Citizens Advisory is going to collect and analyze a lot of data so that they're bringing you a data supported recommendation. To prepare for that, in the background, some work has been done to identify a couple of data sources. And I'll just talk to the first one here at the top. If I can put a check mark next to that, I'd say, we can put a check mark next to it. Not that the assessment itself has been completed, but that we've identified the firm Nudon Security that will work in collaboration with district staff. I've also spoken with our school resource officer, who has agreed to be in that collaborative work to assess our facilities for safety and security. The work of New Dawn Security has been just a key part of successful bonds in other districts, Gresham Barlow, Gladstone, Oregon City, Portland Public. Not that we compare ourselves with those districts, but that's just a list of districts that have relied on New Dawn Security. I believe Silverton is also working with New Dawn Security, and so they bring credibility. We've also worked with them ourselves at different times when we've looked at our security protocols. So we've identified them through a sole source procurement process that our procurement rules allow for, given the cost that we'll spend there is well under the threshold that would require a request for proposals, and it won't require board approval either. So we're moving nimbly. We're working with the resources we know are the winning team. Just below that, Portland State University, we've been in contact with Portland State University for that demographic population study. A key piece of any successful bond is knowing what are the projected enrollments in your community. Gosh, if you're like me, I'm seeing a lot of building going on, and I don't know what the projected percentage of those new apartments or single family dwellings are projected to have children. Portland State University's demographic experts, they're going to have a much better sense, and they've advised successful districts and bonds along the way. That middle category, Tony Tiano and I were actually talking tonight, and he showed me, he actually happens to have this document from 2015 with him, coincidentally. But you'll recall back in 2015, even though the bond issue that the board put before the public did not pass, it was a 48-52 failure that first go around. It did not pass the next fall, again, a little bit bigger spread. But what we committed to the public was that community voice had shaped the priorities. And even though we weren't going to have capital improvements that built new schools, we still were committed to being good stewards of public resource and taking care of our facilities. So I think it was at your work session a couple months back, I shared all of the capital improvements that have taken place over the last 4 or 5 years. If I recall correctly, it was something north of $5 million worth of improvements have taken place. And we've been checking off that work plan. Little of our facilities will need new engineering reports because we had solid engineering reports at that time in 2015, and our team's been taking care of the issues that were identified in there. If Mr. Tiano or some of the technical experts we have that are advising the core team or the advisory say, okay, you've been keeping up with it, Mr. Mann, but we think you need to have a full assessment of that part of that facility because of some expertise that they bring, we're prepared to go nimbly, pay for that engineering study to come back. So this advisory has all the data they need to bring a complete report. Not that they're going to ask for everything all at once. I think they'll bring to the board what they believe is important. Might be, and I've heard this board on our community talk about a new middle school, might include a new middle school, might include some safety and security improvements, might include a roof at one building. I don't know what the advisory is going to bring to you in June or July once they finish their work, but we want to make sure that they have all the information, and that facilities report and any additional engineering reports that are needed are going to be part of that. And then finally, I started, with this last category here of community voice. Community voice has to shape schools. I think that's a core value of our board and our employees, our district. Hearing community voice will come in a couple of different ways. We've got thought exchange as a tool that we've used. We'll use that in community forums that will be planned and delivered by the district core team, and that data will come back to the advisory. Also part of an effective process is working to conduct some research supported polling around community perception, community priorities. Thought exchange is a great tool, but by itself, it's not producing scientifically backed research for the district. And so effective bond proposals by districts tend to include polling data. What the advisory wants from any polling data, the advisory will decide with input from others, but that will be a contract that we set out as we did with security assessment, for example, through request for quotes, and we'll make sure that all of our purchasing of any of the expertise that we need to do this right and do it well is directly in line with the procurement rules that are established by the district and are aligned with the model procurement rules from DOJ or the district attorneys anyway. So if Keith were here tonight, he'd tell us exactly what the governance is over that. But we do it, we will do it, follow along, we'll do it right. I'm excited. I think the community members that have organized this event on the 6th are saying, hey, we're excited. We don't know where this is going to go, but we know that we want to support our schools. And I'm happy to be there to support them by sharing a little bit with the community around what the work plan looks like, when they can expect to participate in forums, when they can expect to receive surveys, when they can expect to get reports, even from the board, about your intentions. So giving them that early look so the community knows from the outset what the work plan looks like, I think, again, is a key important piece in the process. So just wanted you to know that in the background, getting ready for this, we've reached an agreement with New Dawn Security. So they'll be coming in to do that facility assessment here in November and December on safety and security. Portland State University will do that work in November, December, I think, as well. And the advisory itself, I'm expecting to have that advisory named and identified and meeting as soon as the first week in December. So, which is maybe 5 days behind the planned schedule, but still I feel like we're on track. Originally, we talked about that advisory meeting in the last bit of November, but I forgot there's a holiday in there somewhere. So it'll probably be the first week in November or first week of December. But I'm glad to answer any questions you have.
Are we gonna have this on the website so that people can look that over, all the things that you just talked about?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we take
website.
all of
Yeah.
the Zoom meetings are posted on your board website, so people can go back and they can hear these reports monthly. I think sometimes the report tells a more complete story than just the document itself.
Okay.
But I do like the idea of having just a running log or a running update for those who prefer not to want to watch a video, but
Yeah,
they want to
can look
read
at the
that
plan.
update. And I'll work with our staff to craft that. I think having in the drop-down menu, a pre-bond planning drop-down specific would be
That way
valuable.
y'all can look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be perfect.
Safety and security, are they talking about the entry of the buildings, and that's what we're doing is with these people?
Yeah, so entrance, exit, entrance and egress in terms of traffic
what I
as
was
well. Not just entrance, but the physical building, but traffic patterns as well when it comes to safety, because when you're looking at the full physical plant. The technology that is or isn't in place in a district is part of what they'll evaluate in terms of access and documentation of who's had access at which entry points. Whether that includes an evaluation of our security cameras, which we've completed phase 1 installation, phase 2 installations coming this year. We don't need additional dollars for that, but that'll be part of it. So did I answer your question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I was reading through it as you were talking about it, and it's like each little thing that they have, their agricultural, education, casino, security, health. It's like, it says the exact same thing, and I'm like, wait a second, how does that affect us? So if it says the same thing, then I wonder, it's like, what are we paying for?
And I'm not sure, are you looking at,
Their web.
for New Dawn Security?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
I want the info while you're talking about it.
Yeah,
So
I'm glad.
that
I
makes
think-
sense. But the middle school, I mean, we're on track. Our whole goal is to get the middle school rebuilt, redone. I mean, we've got an influx of people coming in with buildings, housings, and businesses coming in that will be here not before long. So we have to have room for these students.
And I think that's what I'm hearing in the community as well. And I think the advisory is going to have to ask and answer some important questions. It might come in part from polling data. It might come in part from enrollment projection data. How large would a new middle school need to be? Where should it physically be located? What's the desire of the community in terms of its proximal location with high school, possibly sharing some CTE, resources, or does the middle school remain where it is on the current footprint? Those are all questions that the community's voice should shape I went down a rabbit hole there.
No,
Director
it's good,
Stafford,
but that's just not what New Dawn does. That's gonna be something separate.
That's
right?
community voice. That's, yep, that's polling and thought exchange. Yep. I'm just gonna pop this up there too. So folks, this is New Dawn Security, who we'll be working with. And again, their work products have supported successful bonds in neighboring districts, and they have a track record of doing leading edge work in safety and security, not just facilities. I can go down a safety security rabbit hole, but that maybe I'll save for another time because it's more than just physical plant.
All righty.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, monthly financial review. Where's our guy? He's not here. That's gonna be you, okay?
Yep, thank
All
you,
right.
Director Eskridge.
All right.
Mr. McClung, our chief business official, came in and worked hard every day, long days for a good stretch as he came on board, getting his feet underneath him. And he is taking a well-deserved hunting trip vacation at the moment. So I told him that we would not try and answer questions, but collect questions that you might have. He'll be back on Monday. So if you have any questions about his report, I'll be glad to have Missy's assistance in getting those questions to him. But you're welcome to ask them tonight, and I can do my best if I have an answer, but if not, we'll defer to Keith.
It was pretty clear to me what he put down on this paper. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, I guess you're getting off easy there. Okay, how about facilities and deferred maintenance? Hey, Tony, how are you?
Well, hopefully I'll just make this kind of short and sweet. You guys have my report. Not too sure if you guys have any questions on that. I was just gonna kind of go to the pictures there at the end of Rural Dell.
Yeah,
That is the third septic tank. This is a septic distribution box that got paved over years ago before my time. So this is basically the third septic tank that has been either concreted over. We had one up at Clark's that people put some nice, beautiful pavers over. Unfortunately, there's a septic tank up underneath there. So again, I think the challenges of this role is trying to figure out what people have done back in 1960, 1970s, the 80s, So yeah, it was just one of those things where we started backing up some stuff in Rural Dell, did some camera work, figured out this thing was underneath some pavement, did some saw cutting, did some pumping, did some cleaning of the leach lines, so everything's kind of back to normal. I'm not gonna pave back over that.
oh, thank God.
So we just left it like 3/4 of an inch down. We're gonna put some black plywood or something. So there's no safety concern like that. So
Yeah.
just kind of want to bring that to your attention. Of course, heating season came on us hot and heavy. It seemed like October was one of the hottest months we've had. And then
Yeah.
I had like 2-3 inches of snow in my house last week. We had that snow.
Yeah.
So again, just trying to make sure all the kiddos, the staff, and everybody's warm. We've had a few roof leaks from the monsoon that we had last week that we've been addressing. Thank gosh, we've got some pretty nice weather. Kind of piggyback on Tony with the bond. He was talking about the documentation. Just kind of let the community and the people here know. These are just some check marks on the deferred maintenance that we did in 2015, the assessment. I'm looking at, I haven't seen this in quite a while, but we did a carpet replacement of 100,000 at MES to gutter replacements in almost most of our schools. Our Climate Tech HVAC installation, that's $100,000 that went to the new wing at the high school. That has helped us immensely on heating and air conditioning, that we can monitor everything from our computer at our desk. Cooler freezer replacements, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 at the high school. I can go on and on, but there's been a lot of stuff that's been done since 2015. Like I said, millions of dollars that basically everything goes through my department, me and Lance. So invoices and, so there's a lot of times, sometimes I have to go through invoices, meet contractors for bids, anything over $10,000, I have to get 3 bids. Most everything's over 10,000. housing. So there's a lot of legwork that goes into, you know, even just the football pole replacements to, you name it, our fingers are in it. So,
I tell you, you've done an outstanding job,
Well,
Tony.
thanks.
I truly appreciate you.
well, again, it's kind of fun to go back and kind of see
Yeah.
what it is that we're doing, you know,
Yeah.
'cause there's really the only person that, or besides you folks and the people around here that really know what we do.
Yeah.
You know. Well, of course.
So we are one of, I should do the research so I know for sure I'm accurate in this, but I believe that we are the only, I believe, there might be one other. We are the only school district in the Tri-County area that has zero bonded indebtedness. So we carry no debt for facility improvements or facility buildings. All of our bond debt from the past was paid off. And we have our full faith and credit status, I think, makes us, you know, in a good position should the board wish to put a bond out. All of those expenditures that Mr. Keon was talking about are typically expenditures that a school district would make using bond dollars. They would have in their bond a capital improvement plan that included revenue for all of those improvements, plus maybe building a new school. So they'd be taking care of both and using bond resources. And I think is a great thing about our district, our board, our budget is that we've been taking care of these things in a way that any bonded indebtedness that might come later on down the road will actually be less, because, you know, it's not that there won't be, you know, possibly requests for some dollars for a roof here or there, but there's 5 million plus that has been taken care of using general fund money over the last, you know, 8 years. So under Tony's leadership.
Excellent leadership, I'd say. Any other questions for Tony? Okay, thank you so much, Tony. I
you.
appreciate everything you do. Okay. Teaching and learning, Kathleen.
Directors, I have brought with me tonight, Dr. Van Dyne.
Oh,
Lori Van
yes.
Dyne, she's a wonderful help in working on math improvement.
Oh, good.
And she teaches at the high school, but she also gives a lot of her time to helping coach our teachers and making sure that we are making progress towards improving our practices. And I'm gonna, before she gets started, so tonight she's gonna present to you a presentation about iReady. And iReady is that tool that we purchased for this year. It's new to us. Other districts are purchasing it as well, and she's gonna take us through it. But the beauty of this tool is it lets you know where the student is at that moment in their learning so that the teacher can make some decisions. I know that state testing, you know, we share that out like once a year. And I think it was Director Luke had said to me, but Kathleen, this is like after last year, it feels like it's after the fact. And he is right, it is after the fact. It's not something that you certainly can look to it to make improvements, but really what is most effective is a tool that is what we call for learning. That means you see where your students are in real time, so you can make some decisions in real time. And I'll stop talking. So Lori's going to share with you this tool, the data, the diagnostic data, all of our students she'll share with you who's already taken the assessment. And we're going to do this diagnostic assessment at least 3 times this year. And I will say the data is not wonderful, but it's a starting point, and I'm hoping to bring her back and you're going to see it grow. So
Go. This time. Yeah, so iReady gives us a couple of things. So we have a digital diagnostic tool that we give to our students 3 times a year. So that's what most school districts use it for, is the diagnostic data. But it's also a growth measurement tool. So it helps us determine how much of our students grow. Have they grown a full year or full school year like we expect them to, or they've grown more than a school year? It's also though an instructional tool. So iReady has assigned digital lessons that are specific to students' needs based on their diagnostic, so that we can start bridging the gaps for students who may have gaps in their mathematics education. The teacher can also assign digital lessons based on the content standards. And then there's also some small group instructional lessons that teachers can use to help meet the needs of small groups of students. So the program groups students based on skills that they all have in common, so that the teacher has something to build off of with that group of students. So that she's not, the teacher isn't just pinpointing one student, but a small group that all have similar needs. This is an example report that I took from a teacher's dashboard. So this is kind of what the teacher sees for their entire class. The student's name would be on the left. Of course, I deleted that section. It tells us where the student is in their grade level. This is a second grade class, so this gives you an idea. And it also breaks it up into the 4 domains for mathematics. So numbers and operations, algebraic reasoning, measurement, and geometry. So those are the 4 domains for kindergarten math. So that the teacher can see that it's not just that student who's at a first grade level, they're only scoring a first grade numbers and operations. They're scoring a second grade level on algebra, measurement, and geometry. So it's really just the numbers and operations that the teacher needs to focus on with that particular student. It also gives growth goals. So you have your typical growth goal, what we expect a student to grow in a year, and then a stretch goal that shows that they've grown even more than we expected them to. So that students and teachers and parents can see how their student is growing throughout the year. Go to the next one. Okay. This would be an example of a student report. This would be what a student could see or a parent could see as to where their student is performing. So they have their growth goals there on the left. They have where they're placing, how the student is scoring, and where they need to score. So the green is where they need to be scoring. And then specifically, what areas are they struggling in? So notice that this particular student is scoring at a 4th grade level, but their numbers and operations are actually higher. It's in algebraic and algebraic thinking that they need some assistance. So it really breaks it down for the teacher so they can really pinpoint what is the area of need. This is our diagnostic completion rates. So I'll just let you look at it if you have any questions about it. So 3% of our students had not started. Could be because they were enrolled in iReady, but they moved districts. It's based off of what's in Synergy. So if a student moves districts, they could still be on iReady. So that could be it. Or the student has been sick. That could be the other piece of it. 2% are in progress, and 95% of the students in kindergarten through 8th grade have completed the assessment. So we have some pretty accurate data. This is our district overview. So I'm just going to let you look at it for a second, and then I'll kind of explain. So green with stripes is mid or above grade level. Now keep in mind this is a fall diagnostic. So a student who's in 4th grade, who's assessing at a 3rd grade level, that's kind of where you expect them to be because they haven't covered 4th grade material yet. So just kind of keep that in mind. The green is at grade level. The yellow is 1 grade level below. Keep in mind this is the fall. Okay, so we don't expect to see this in the spring. And then we have 2 grade levels below, and then the last column is 3 or more grade levels below. This assessment is given from kindergarten through 8th grade.
So they've suffered from the COVID because I'm seeing a lot of below.
So we do, I mean, I don't know what's typical prior to COVID. So I could ask iReady for that data. What were students scoring prior to? I could ask them that data. So it's hard for me to gauge how much of an impact.
I'm sure it is.
And it's still early in the year.
It's still very early in the year.
Yeah,
Exactly.
okay.
So
I'd love
yeah.
to see this later.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
I wanna
exactly.
see-
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'd like to
But
see
what
the
is nice
progress.
is the next slide does do
Yeah.
a comparison.
Okay.
Okay, so one of our wonderful principals asked me this question, and I think it was a fantastic question. How did Malala compare to Oregon and the national level for students who took iReady? So over 1 million students in the nation take an iReady diagnostic for mathematics. So we're looking at a pretty large sample size. So keep that in mind. I'll just let you kind of look at how Malala compares to Oregon and to the national level. This was in our fall diagnostic. Anything you need me to clarify or any questions you have about the comparisons?
Do they send that diagnostic data every
quarter or semester or?
You mean like iReady, does iReady
Yeah.
shows that? So
Or can you-
this was iReady's fall diagnostic comparisons, so how Oregon did in the fall diagnostic. And then I will ask them again in the spring for how did Oregon and the national do in the spring, so that we
Okay.
have some comparison data.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna continue to ask them for that, so we can continue to gauge where we're at.
Okay.
Because it's kind of hard to tell, when you see that much yellow, it's like, ooh, should we be really concerned or not? And then when you look at the comparison data, it's a little less alarming. Yes.
They can log in and kind of check and track their child to see.
Absolutely, yes. And a lot of teachers have, given the student report to parents during conferences. So that was really helpful, but yes, parents can log in to their students' iReady account and see how much progress they made.
Is there a good percentage of parents that are using it?
We're gonna look at that in just a second. I don't know if
Okay.
parents are, but I know students are. So that's gonna be actually our next data. You can go to the next one. Yep. This gives you the usage data. So this is from October 8th to November 8th. Keep in mind, we just rolled out this program. So I am very pleased with our usage, given that we just rolled this program out. We have about 1,400 of our students in kindergarten through 8th grade who are completing lessons in iReady. These are just iReady assigned lessons. So these are just lessons that iReady assigns to students based on their diagnostic. This doesn't take into account teacher assigned lessons that teachers gave to students to do that are grade level content. This is just what students are kind of doing on their own, or time that teachers are giving them to kind of work on their skills. So almost all of our students are completing lessons in iReady, with an average time on task of 1 hour and 31 minutes over the last month. 88.6% of those students were passing those lessons at a 70% or higher. And then there's been a total of 8,600 lessons completed in the last month. So students are teachers are giving some time for students to do that, or the students are doing work. Yes.
So you're talking about the iReady lessons and you're talking about the teacher design lessons. And we're seeing data that shows some students are a grade or more below grade level. I think the idea that we always think about is a student who might start the year several grades below grade level. Our hope is not just that they get a year's worth of skills
Yeah.
for a year's worth of seat time,
Yes.
but we can actually accelerate them and get them closer to
Yes.
grade level. So is it right that the iReady lessons are based on where that kid's immediate skill needs are?
Yes.
And the teacher design skill lessons
Or on grade
are
level.
nuanced, and
Yeah.
it's a human being, not a computer. They're working to make sure that kids have access to those
Yes.
grade level content
Yes.
standards too.
Yes, which is extremely important that students are given access to grade level content standards. And in addition to that, using iReady or any other differentiation or scaffolding that a teacher needs to give to bridge those gaps for students so they can get on grade level. So the goal is that students who are currently at grade level will grow 1 year's growth, but that students who are scoring in the red or the red with the stripes, so 2 or more grade levels below, that they continue to meet their stretch goals. Because if they continue to meet their stretch goals every single year, then by the time they get to high school, they will be on grade level.
Good.
And that is the goal. Yeah. All right, I think, let's see if there's yes.
Can I just
absolutely.
clarify too? So
Yes.
the coach brain, for me is thinking, okay, if this is an athletics context,
Mhm.
if the expectation for my basketball coach at this grade level or at this performance level is that every player has mastery, right hand dribble, left hand dribble, and a pretty solid crossover, right?
Mhm.
And I'm struggling with the left hand. Every time I try this crossover, I'm chasing the ball down the court. I'm several grades below on that. I'm not going to just stand in class all day long and work on my left hand.
Mhm.
I'm going to still run the
Yep.
plays, get ready for game time, and I'm going to have some specialized instruction to make sure that I
Yes.
get that left hand dribble dialed
Yes.
in.
Yes,
Okay.
and when we look at what is coming up in terms of our plan, actually our November in-service will be to talk to K-8 teachers about that very thing.
Okay.
About how do you accomplish grade level standards and content while still scaffolding and providing support for all the gaps that students might have.
Thank you.
Strictly the next one, I think. Let me see. Yes, it is. Next step. So, Monday, November's in service. Our first session is gonna be iReady continued training. So a group of our teachers will get the second set of training for iReady, which is how do you read the data and what do you do with it? It's great to have data, but if you're not doing anything with it, it does nothing for you. The other session will be led by me. It is how to use data to guide your instruction in the classroom. So real life, what do you do in the classroom? So here's some tips to be successful, to do exactly what you said. Get students grade level content, which is what they need, but also provide them the support that they need to fill in those gaps. So how do you realistically do that in the classroom? So that session will be led by me. Every month, teachers and admin get iReady tips to help encourage them on how to use iReady successfully. I was very fortunate to partner with another school district that had been using iReady for a very long time, and they provided me with a lot of useful tools for teachers to be successful. And I continue to monitor the usage every single month. So I continue to provide Kathleen with the data every month on usage of iReady, so we can make sure that we're using it effectively. In February, there'll be another diagnostic, which I will provide then another data report on how we are growing. If we are making that growth, that will be a discussion then of what do we do if we are not, or are we celebrating successes if we do that.
Let's see the celebration of success.
Yeah,
That's what
that is
we're
our goal.
here. So we're gonna hear from you again in February, you're saying?
I don't.
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to, yeah.
That is up,
Okay.
that's up to this person over here. Luckily, right after the diagnostic, we have another in-service planned in February, which would be a great time to then give teachers time to really look at that growth data and figure out what do you do with that information. Now that we know our students growing, are they not? Now what do we do? And how do we intervene prior to the state exam? And we'll also be looking at math instructional tools. Part of that intervention is how do we provide math instruction in a way that's engaging for students. I continue to do math, monthly math leaders, which is a group of teachers that have been meeting for the last several years now. And they're math leaders at every single school that are represented by every school. And we're focusing on iReady and data so that they can be the leaders in their building when it comes to iReady and data. And then in May and June, we'll have our last diagnostic to see really how did our students grow over time. So that is where we are at. If you have questions.
I have one question. We're on a trimester thing, and
Yes.
it seemed like in mathematics, like in algebra, you have algebra 1, and all of a sudden there's this big break between algebra 1, algebra
Yes.
2, and it doesn't make sense because you lost everything you've learned, and then suddenly you've got a whole semester that you're not getting any math at all, and then you're expected to have remembered all this. What can we change that so that it's one right after the other? Because this is what Ron was facing with his student, with his child, because he had his course and then he had nothing in the middle of it, and then he was given his second part.
We have made some adjustments to that. I won't, Dr. Atherton will be able to speak more to plans for that. In Algebra 1 specifically, though, we have required we have changed that to a 3-trimester class. So Algebra 1 freshman year is a 3-trimester class as of this year.
So we'll have,
As of this year.
continuation. then.
For many different reasons, we made that decision as a math
Oh,
team.
thank God. Okay.
I will let Dr. Atherton, I would love to have, my personal opinion, math 3 trimesters for all of our math
I
classes.
would
but
love that.
But,
Can we?
that's a personnel decision, so.
Well, I would love to see
So,
that because mathematics is extremely important.
So, but at least for the algebra, that is a decision that as a math department, we really pushed in the high school.
Okay.
I have
So
a
many-
quick question.
Oh, yes.
So the diagnostics can obviously show you the different sides of the spectrum, but are you also identifying like talented and gifted in that
Yes.
as well?
Yes, and actually that is probably the most common question I get from teachers is, what do I do with my students who are in the green, meaning they're on grade level or above? And so we will be spending quite a bit of time on November in service on not just, how do you help students who are down here, but how do you accelerate students who are up here? How do we continue to do that? So quite a bit of time is me focused on that as well.
Thank you.
So I have to thank you I'm excited. You can see the excitement. here. I'm excited about this. It's just explicit and it just pinpoints this where the student is, and that is so helpful for teachers. So
Yeah.
I'm very excited, and Lori, thank you for everything. I'm gonna switch gears here just quickly. I was not at the last board meeting, and I know my annual SIA report was in your notes. And it just shared with you what were the strategies we were investing in and the activities. So I just wanted to ask you if you have any questions or had any questions. You may not have, and that's okay, but
I don't for now. Anybody else have any questions
questions
on the last?
okay,
No, good.
all right.
So
Thank you
Alrighty.
all. Appreciate it.
thanks for covering all this curriculum instruction and assessment. I appreciate it. Yeah. All right. Student services. That's you. All right.
Good evening,
Hi.
Chair, Vice Chair, board members. You have my report. I didn't have my report. We've done a little bit of creative staffing in that we have really struggled to recruit a learning specialist at the high school. And so we have a behavior specialist starting on the 24th. And so talked with the learning specialist there about how that person might be able to support them and take some of the work off their plate. So we will only have this person until, the end of the year, and then hopefully next year we'll get lucky and some people will graduate from school or move out to Malala and we'll have another learning specialist. So
That'd be nice.
we continue to need a couple IAs, but other than that, we're getting there. I talked a little bit last time about the Oregon General Supervision Framework, and just that Malala is in that first group that's going to go through this brand new process of monitoring. This is how they look at compliance around special education. And we did receive what areas, basically what will happen is we'll review files and we'll go through several protocols. And the areas that they want us to be looking at are secondary transition and the least restrictive environment. And the third one we got to choose, and I did choose discipline. Currently, we are not out of compliance, or going into this, we're not out of compliance in any area. Had we been, we would have had to review those specific areas, but we're not. And a little bit on family outreach. I'm getting my feet underneath me in this new position, but we'll have more of a strategy to share with you next time. But hoping to do something very local, like a coffee or some kind of small meeting at each school building. But I'm still developing that strategy.
All right.
Any other questions?
I think I looked it all over and there's just so much to learn on
Thank
this. You go ahead.
So how did you, excuse me, I have a frog in my throat. I was just curious, like how you came up with the review options. I mean, because you weren't out of compliance, but you,
So they
Had to
chose, so
choose.
yes, so ODE chose the first two.
oh, okay.
And I don't really want to tell you how I chose the third. It had the least amount of questions. And
At least you're honest.
I was coached by ODE by that too. They said, "Well, you should pick the one with the least amount of questions." And I said, okay. So,
Okay, I was just curious.
and if you had an interest in me looking at a different area, that could definitely happen. So, but
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All righty. Okay, so next is first reading of the policies. Are there any questions on these policies that we have? The one is CB, it's the superintendent. And the new part in this one, CB, is the board may not direct the superintendent to take any action that conflicts with a local, state, or federal law that applies to school districts. So it's all highlighted, any of the changes that have been made in any of this. So y'all can look at it. And then there's the superintendent's contract, and that's CBC. And then there's the GBEA. Okay, and this is the OSBA model sample policy, workplace harassment, and it goes through everything. And there's not a whole lot of change. Oh, this is all proposed. That's new stuff. Okay, so any questions on that?
Madam
No,
Chair,
This is just, I want to know if you've had a chance to look at, it, because this is just the first reading and we're not
Bless you.
making any motions at all tonight. Just if there's any
Madam
questions.
Chair.
Yes,
Yeah, it's, question, are all of these policies, ones that OSBA, excuse me. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time because of my throat.
Spencer went
Um,
over it with us.
What's that?
Spencer Lewis.
Yeah, no, are these all policies that OSBA has newly recommended changes to since the
Yes.
recent adoption?
Yeah.
And are all of these updates of required policies, or are some of these recommended or optional policies?
I believe this is a required, this proposed one. Let me just take a look. Yeah, it's RS. No, that's, is that the initial of the person that wrote it? I've got to get my glasses strengthened up, or I need to increase this. Can you look at that? Craig,
What's that?
can you look at that policy that I mentioned?
Well, I'm not sure which
The
policy you're referring to.
GBEA, workplace harassment.
So Linda, I'm not referring to that policy specifically. I'm just referring to that collection of policies. Are there some of those that are just recommended or optional, but not required? Or are they all required policies? I know the ones about the superintendent are required as a result of
I
recent
think the
changes in the
harassment
law.
one is required.
I think most of the things that were required,
Yeah.
well, we kept everything required. A lot of the stuff that was optional, we either cut or went through it
Yeah.
pretty well to decide whether or not the committee wanted to keep it in policy.
And as far as the policy committee goes, you all agreed on the new changes? Agreed unanimously, sort
Yeah,
of,
we did.
if I can say that. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, so we don't need any motions for this. Okay, superintendent report, Tony Mann.
Mr. Eskridge and directors, I think we're off to a great start this school year. I've had a chance to visit all of our schools. This week I was at the middle school for a little bit. Had a chance to have good conversation with Mr. Dalton, some of his staff. Just really happy with the way the school year is starting. The one thing I want to highlight is that last evening, Director Luke and I had an opportunity to meet with some really passionate, excited community members who wanted to have a conversation with us regarding, and Dwight Mason was part of that group. Dwight was a longtime member of our facility improvement team. He was also on the Ideal Athletic Program advisory. And we were invited to this conversation specifically around turf fields. And it was a nice conversation, good discussion. I was glad to be able to bring some data around the cost of turf fields that it's always going to be site specific or district specific. And we know that those construction costs increase over time, but I have the real time data from a neighboring district that just installed turf. So I was able to, speak concretely about those costs and the total costs, are north of $2 million. So that was just a helpful data point. But I was glad to talk with them about it having a clear place in our Ideal Athletics program, 3 to 5 years, 3 through 5. I reminded them our Ideal Athletic program goals specified a whole bunch of facility improvements. Year 1, year 2, you'll recall the tennis courts were part of that. Scoreboards were part of that. So we, again, like the facility improvement list Mr. Keanu was speaking about earlier, we've been checking off those things as we go. And turf sits in that 3 to 5 year window. So I think folks were happy to see that that's on our radar screen. I don't have a specific proposal at this time. But just wanted you to know that I'm having conversations with folks in the community.
So next, for the good of the district, does anybody have anything to say for the good of the district? Yes, Amy.
Like Mr. Lanahan, I just want to say thank you to all the veterans in our community. And I know that there's a Veterans Day program tomorrow. And it looks like it went out in the update today to all the district.
Oh, it's St. James.
Yeah, it's tomorrow at 4. And I know Malala Cares is doing some outreach as well. So
Anyone else have anything to say? I don't either.
Linda,
Okay, Craig?
Linda,
Yes,
I
Craig?
just wanted to say, I'm sorry I can't join you all tonight. But I have been cursed by the vid. So I've got a few more days in quarantine here.
COVID?
Yes.
You lucky thing.
hope you feel better soon.
Yeah,
Thank you.
all right. Well, we miss you. All right, upcoming meetings. November 15th, Policy Committee meeting, 5:30 till 7:30, virtual meeting. November 17th, work session, meeting at 7 o'clock at the district office has been canceled. Let me finish. December 8th, regular business meeting, 7 o'clock, district office. December 20th, Policy Committee meeting, virtual, that's 5:30 to 7:30. December 22nd, work session meeting, 7 o'clock at the district office. Now I need a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn.
Okay. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, raise your right arm. Okay, meeting is ended. Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it. Now, Ron, you want to come and join us?
Bye, y'all.
Yeah, you're gonna come and join us.